Well, we're so glad you're with us. Today it's Monday, May 21st. Can you believe we are just flying through May? I cannot believe it. The month of Mary. How exciting is that? Welcome to Take Two with Jerry and Debbie. I'm Debbie Georgiani along with Jerry Usher. Hi, Jerry. It's Monday. Happy Monday to you.
Hey, happy Monday back to you and to all of our listeners.
I looked at the calendar and I said, May 21st already. Don't you feel like this year is just flying by?
I do. Yeah, I do. Yep, it's day by day, week by week. The time flies, especially this hour that we have with our listeners. It goes too quickly, but we always enjoy it.
It does. It truly does. So today, let's just dive right into the topic because I know a lot of you have been already emailing about it because it's kind of an interesting topic. We titled it Stuffed Emotions. And what we mean by that is those feelings, those thoughts, those emotions that we have that we're unable to express for some reason or another, whether it's in a relationship, in a work relationship, with friends, in your neighborhood, in your community, in your parish, okay? Those emotions that you're feeling and you just feel like, you know what? We're better off just keeping peace. I'm just going to stuff this and I'm not going to express it even though I feel strongly about it. Let's talk about these stuffed emotions that actually can turn out in the long run if there's so many of them and left unreconciled, if you will, or expressed, then they can possibly lead to disease. We've read articles about that where a lot of times different things that are going on with our emotional state, if it is not fully recognized or helped in some way, whether through exercise or something like that, or some kind of journaling or something of that nature, could potentially cause actual physical disease. So stuffed emotions are very interesting because as Catholic Christians, we sometimes want to default to always just keeping peace. We don't want to say anything. Don't rock the boat. I don't want to say anything. Everything's going well. So it's interesting because how do we navigate that as Catholic Christians? Do we just express everything? I grew up in an Italian family. We expressed everything, the good, the bad, the ugly. Okay, maybe that's not so healthy. Although they say that actually is not the worst thing in the world, especially for your physical state. So let's talk about stuffed emotions today. What do you think, Jerry? Tell me something. Growing up, did your family express their feelings, or was it just peace at any cost?
Well, let's give that number first. I do have some thoughts I can share on that. But
okay.
For those who would like to join us, it's 833-288-3986, 833-288-EWTN. Talk about how you deal with your emotions. Do you have a healthy outlet for them? Debbie, sometimes, people, you've heard that I don't know if it's a joke, maybe some people do it seriously. They'll just go into their bedroom and take a spare pillow and just punch it a few times and then, get out whatever is kind of driving them at that moment. But 833-288-3986. Talk about how you express your emotions. Have you been a victim, a self-victim perhaps, of keeping them stuffed down? And maybe you've experienced mental health issues or physical health issues. Debbie and I are not counselors or doctors or anything, but we both certainly had experience with this. And yes, Debbie, there was a saying in my house when we were growing up, children are to be seen and not heard. I'm sure you probably heard that before. And, I think to a certain extent, there's something maybe wise about that. If you have company over, for example, you don't want the kids, making a boisterous bunch of noise and stuff. But I really believe within a family, and I'd love to hear from some parents on this, and you can share too, perhaps, Debbie, that how should we let our kids, express their emotions, if they're feeling angry or sad or mad or something, in a positive, healthy way, maybe help them talk through it, and find out what might be at the root cause of it so that it doesn't stay bottled down there. Because, like you said, I was doing some research before the show as well, and it's quite alarming how high the percentage is of people who do that, who stuff down their emotions in terms of heart attack and cancer and so forth.
So when in your household, children should be seen and not heard, did you notice that your siblings or even yourself, did you have some kind of emotions that were never expressed and maybe came out later in life when your parents were getting ready to exit this earth?
Well, I've shared a little bit about this on the show before, and I feel like in many ways, not having my dad around, for example, and due to, I think, some unhealthy elements in my relationship with my mom, which all has been reconciled, all is peaceful. There was great love, and when they died, we all were in very, very, close friendship with each other. But these things happen, and I think I developed some things which still are with me today. I will find myself, anger will kind of show itself to me sometimes. And I mentioned before, especially when I'm out on the road and people are doing, crazy things. And I'll just say, well, where did that come from? And so it's just maybe some things that I've worked through a lot of stuff and still trying to do that. But yeah, I think in many ways this can stay with us throughout our entire lives, and give us something to work on, as the years go by.
I have a girlfriend that she had a similar experience growing up, Jerry, and it took her till she was 40 years old. And when she became 40 years old, she decided she was going to take up running. And boy, oh boy, did she run. And I think that's where all of her stuffed emotions came out, where she was able to express them in a way physically by running. And she became a really good runner. And she found that in the process, she healed from so many things that she had carried with her from her childhood. And she actually physically looks different, Jerry. It's unbelievable. If you saw a picture of her before running and then after she went through this transformation, if you will, she looks physically different. She looks very happy and joyful, and she seems like she's got a lightness in her step. Rather, before, she was actually kind of difficult to be around. So it's very interesting, but she made that conscious decision that she knew she needed to get out these emotions, and her way of doing it was this rigorous exercise in running, because running takes a lot of determination and a lot of commitment, and she was willing to do that, and she became a really good runner. Plus, in the process, I think she lost like 35 pounds, which is always a good benefit.
Right.
So
again, the number 833-288-3986. Take two with Jerry and Debbie, talking about stuffing our emotions today and how that can be unhealthy for us. And how do you avoid doing that? Here's something you might want to ponder and weigh in on. How do you recognize that when someone else is expressing emotions, perhaps anger or some sort of negative emotion, that they're not directed at you, but maybe that's been bottled up inside of them, and that's just their way of kind of getting it out? And how do you not take something like that personally, especially within, maybe it's somebody that lives under the same roof as yours, and that can be a really tough thing to do. And another question, how do we detach from our emotions whenever possible? And what I mean by that is, when we reframe, Debbie, I'm big on reframing. So, when we're feeling mad or feeling sad, that we need to recognize I'm not mad or sad. I'm just feeling that way right now. Emotions can come and go. So this is, I think, a very, very important topic, because emotions are such a key part of the makeup of who we are. Absolutely.
So weigh in on this. We need to hear from you. Remember, you drive this show. And the number is 1-833-288-3986. We're talking about stuffed emotions today. If you could help us, maybe share your method. I like the exercise that Jerry said about going and grabbing that pillow and punching it or screaming in it. Whatever works. We want to hear from you. When we come back, we're going right to the phones.
Dr. David Anders.
Our assurance of salvation is grounded in the objective word of promise from Christ, who said to the apostles, "Whoever sins you forgive are forgiven." Period. End of paragraph.
The leading Catholic voices are on EWTN Radio.
How about this? Apple TV allows you to instantly stream EWTN to your TV. Get EWTN today. It's easy. All you need is a high-speed internet connection, a TV, and the Apple TV player.
60 on 10 with Monsignor Charles Pope.
The 10th commandment, you shall not desire anything that is your neighbor's. This commandment is similar to the 9th because it uses the word covet, which means to inordinately or inappropriately desire something. And therefore, related to this are concepts that are familiar to us, such as greed, or avarice, which is the undue passion for riches and powers. And likewise, envy and jealousy are related here. Jealousy, you have something that I want, but I want it inappropriately or inordinately. Likewise, though, envy is a very dark thing because it wants to destroy that which is good in another because it makes me look bad by comparison. And so, in all these ways, the Lord is asking us to look very carefully to our desires because they can grow too expansive and lead us into very grave sins. The 10th commandment, you shall not desire anything that is your neighbor's.
EWTN. Live truth. Live Catholic.
Take Two with Jerry and Debbie, and I've been around Catholic media for quite a number of years now, and Debbie, you as well, and I know you could say the same thing. As I travel around the country, I always ask stations and listeners, what are the shows that you like most, or what are the highest rated shows? Invariably, The Journey Home with Marcus Grodi is always at the top of everybody's list. Marcus Grodi is a convert to the Catholic faith, and his TV show, which also airs on radio, tonight at 8 p.m. Eastern Time. He's got a different convert on with him, and these can be ministers, pastors from other Christian traditions, or people who came in to the church from whatever, atheism, agnosticism. It's a fascinating show. So tune in tonight, The Journey Home with Marcus Grodi at 8 p.m. Eastern Time here on EWTN Radio.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
I agree. I love The Journey Home. Okay, if you want to jump on a line, there is 2 open. Can you believe that on Take Two? Come on, you guys. We can't be the only ones with stuffed emotions. There has to be others out there as well. How do you deal with those feelings that you have? Maybe with your coworkers, maybe at the parish. I know I had to deal with a lot of stuffed emotions when I was working at the parish level because it can be a very interesting place. And so let's talk about it. 833-288-3986. This is where we really get real on these topics on Take Two with Jerry and Debbie. Okay, first up is Michelle in Easton, Maryland, listening on Guadalupe Radio. Hi, Michelle. Welcome to Take Two with Jerry and Debbie.
Hi, Debbie. Thank you for taking my call, Jerry and Debbie. I have a suggestion of what I always do. I'm married to a recovering alcoholic, and if anybody knows anything about Al-Anon or just the Catholic faith, you really cannot be expressing your emotions when drama starts happening. So what I've learned is to get up every morning and journal, Dear Jesus, I empty my heart out to Jesus, every frustration, every worry, every concern of my heart. And then I open the Bible, and usually Jesus will give me an answer, or he'll comfort me, or something like that. And I've suggested this to many people who have tried it, and even with children, just writing a letter in your journal every morning to Jesus, and you get it all out. And then you end up feeling this tremendous love, of course, from Jesus when you're finished. So that's my suggestion. It's changed my life.
Wow, Michelle, that's a beautiful approach, and I'm not that familiar with AA and Al-Anon, but I have heard what you said before, and that is you kind of want to diffuse drama if it starts to arise and so forth. And what that takes, really, on your part, is it takes a real a love and a sensitivity toward the other person. In this case, your husband. You're doing him just such a beautiful. You're giving him a beautiful gift by taking that step back and by deferring and then going into the journaling, going into your relationship with Jesus, who we did a show, Michelle, called Jesus is a Big Boy. Mm-hmm. What we meant was we can dump anything on him at any time. And you realize that you can do that. So, Debbie, I think her approach is really very, very loving and gentle.
Yeah, and it's very gentle to you as well, Michelle, and I love that. Can I ask you a couple of questions? Is that okay?
Sure.
Okay. Does your husband know that you do it? Does your husband know that this is the practice you use to process through your emotions?
He knows that I journal and spend time with Jesus every morning, and but I tell him that I vaguely tell him, but I never say I'm writing about you or I'm writing about our issues, because truly it's not just about us. It's about, our children, our neighbors, or anybody.
Right.
So he does know that I do this, and he does know that if we're having difficulties that I do turn to my journal. But he doesn't like think that, oh, I'm writing about him every day, and I would be like horrified if he read it. It's not like that. And I write in a really loving way also, which really helps, because I don't want to go to Jesus and blast my husband or anybody else to him. I'm talking to Jesus. So
no, I hear you.
The answer, my husband does know, but it's not like.
So I've got another question, and the reason why I'm asking these questions is because I want to start getting into the practice again of journaling. My sister is unbelievably disciplined when it comes to journaling, and I always admire her for that. So I need to ask you this question though. So if I'm going to spend that 20 minutes every morning to journal,
yes.
So you're going to tell me I'm definitely going to feel better?
Absolutely. I couldn't believe the immediate change. I can't believe how I pour out my heart, and then I pick up scripture. And usually I'm just reading Magnificat and taking a couple scriptures that jump out to me there, and then, kind of meditate on them and write about them. Immediately, Jesus answers me. I think, how on earth, which of course it's not on earth, it's through Jesus. He knows what's going to happen. He points those scriptures to me. I immediately feel better.
Wow.
Absolutely.
Okay. I'm in. Okay, that is awesome. I'm so glad that you called, because I think it's going to help so many of us. Like you said, when you talk about, it's not just with our spouses, it's our kids, it's our friends, our community, the world. I mean, the world, look at the world. We can't even express, it's a PC culture. We're not allowed to say anything anymore.
Exactly. And I tell Jesus, like, oh, I wish I would have done that, or please help me. I want to do this or be this better person or work on this virtue. It's all encompassing, because of course it's all Jesus, but it is. Yeah, you can say anything.
Beautiful. Well, you have that freedom, that interior freedom in your spirit, Michelle, that allows you to do that, and it's such a great outlet for you that. It's just going to help you keep that peace of your mind and your heart, and keep peace within your family, which we hope and pray is certainly the case. Thank you, Michelle. Thanks for joining us and sharing that with us.
Thank you. God bless you. Thank you.
Talking about stuffed emotions today, the challenge that is for us. Are you someone who keeps things kind of packed down really tight, or have you found some healthy ways? Maybe you're in a marriage and you and your husband have an agreement. It's like, once a month we're just gonna kind of air some things that we've been kind of holding inside, and do it lovingly and charitably. Let us hear about that if you do that. How about with your kids? How do you approach your kids and let them be open and free with whatever they're feeling? 833-288-3986.
Jerry,
okay, I think, yes.
You said two things that are just prime life skills exercises. The one was the pillow exercise of either punching it or actually screaming in it, because some people need to express it by just kind of yelling into their pillow. But the other one is to schedule time to lovingly share what's on our hearts in relationships, and to give that time, actually set a time, whether it's 5 minutes, 20 minutes, 30 minutes, how whatever time works for the relationship, if it's a friendship or if it's a couple, if it's a marital relationship. So it's very interesting you said that, Jerry, because did you pick those up on the internet, or did you just think of them? I'm just curious.
I think they just kind of came to me, but they just seem like
practical
logical and reasonable. Practical things to do.
Yeah, well, they're very, very, it does work, and it does help one another, especially what you said is key, in a loving, compassionate way. You have to express it where you would like to receive it that way. So you can't just kind of, dump on the other person and then feel like that's going to be healthy, because that's not necessarily a good thing. Okay, Claire in Dearborn, Michigan on Ave Maria Radio. Welcome, Claire, to Take Two with Jerry and Debbie.
Hi. So I'm a young mother. I have 2 girls and one baby on the way. And can you hear me okay?
Oh, yeah, perfectly,
just fine.
Claire.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. So I have a couple questions. One is about some tips on affirming the emotions of children, because, my husband, he recently is reading a book by Conrad Barrs, the late Catholic psychologist, and in the book he states that children's emotions, need to be able to be expressed without feeling guilty for having them. And so we want to do that with our children, because I think growing up, I couldn't express like negative emotions very well without feeling like I shouldn't express them, like anger or guilt or self-pity, sadness. So I don't want to do the same thing with my kids. I want to let them be able to express them. But my 4-year-old is my oldest, and she has a tendency to be very sad at times, she sits on the couch and she says, oh, I'm sad because it's not Christmas, or, she has a tendency to be pessimistic, kind of like me. And so I don't know how to deal with her sadness in a positive way, and also sometimes her anger. So I was wondering tips for children of that age.
Okay, so Jerry stated at the beginning, Claire, that we're not trained therapists or counselors. You have the Pop Checks, and you have Dr. Ray Garendi, who are trained specialists in families and children and stuff like that. But I've raised children, and Jerry and I do practice life skills, and we do trainings on life skills. So just from a practical sense, the thing about it is I really think for me anyway, when I was raising my kids, I always used to redirect them or have them get to see a different perspective. So if my oldest child tend to look at the glass half full, my youngest looked at it half empty. And so I always try to bring a perspective to my youngest of a different angle to it, and get him to expand that negativity and maybe possibly look at the positive side. And he would kind of resist, but I always knew it was in there germinating in his brain, and he ended up kind of caving in, and he would say, okay, I get it, Mom. And he would say that. So that's the first thing. I was very big on always offering other options, just not get stuck on what they say, because children are so concrete. Whatever they say, we tend to focus on. The other thing too is about emotions. I used to do this crazy thing and who knows, I'm probably going to have the Pop Checks or Dr. Garendi say, see, you're nuts. You need some help, but that's okay. I used to do this thing where I used to let my kids express their feelings, and then I would hug and kiss them right afterwards. And I'd be like, that is so good. I'm so glad that you got that out, that you absolutely hate my cooking, and you hate the curfew we have for you, and you hate everything about this whole entire house. And I would hug and kiss them, and they'd start laughing hysterically. And they're like, well, I didn't really mean that. I go, well, you said it, but I'm so proud that you got it out. And before you know it, all their drama tended not to make a statement, if you know what I mean, Claire, because sometimes our children, and I love children, don't get me wrong, but sometimes they can be a little dramatic when they are expressing things, and that's okay. That's like us too. We just tend to temper it a little bit as we get older, hopefully. But so I don't know if that helps at all, Claire, but I used to always try to redirect it and give another option. So does that, what do you think about that? Maybe you're going to say I need to go back to therapy.
No, thank you. That gives me some perspective. And I one more thing about this. I was always kind of afraid to let my daughter scream into a pillow or punch a pillow, because I feel like that's allowing her to, I don't know, I guess maybe because of how I was raised, I feel like you shouldn't do that. You should just calmly talk it out. So you're saying that it's fine, like she can, whack the couch or do something that's non-destructive.
No. Okay, wait a minute. We were talking about adults. We were talking about adults here, not necessarily children. I'm talking about adults. Okay. It's an exercise that's used with adults sometimes, what they need to express. What I used to do with my children is I would actually have them, they would exercise. My youngest, if he was really frustrated, I said, you know what? There's a beautiful green belt right behind us. Why don't you go run up and down about, 30 minutes? And he would go do that. And then by the time he came back, he couldn't even remember why he was angry. So but here's the thing, though. I do have to express something in this to tell me, and maybe a counselor will weigh in on this, but I was a parent, and so I just have to say this. I was a religious education director. Children do need to express their anger. It's not good for them to suppress it. So somehow there has to be an outlet. That's why exercise is good, or reading, or listening to music, or even sometimes playing games, even video games can let them decompress a bit. So I don't know how you feel about that, Jerry, but I heard that many times. In fact, my pediatrician used to say, let them shed off some of that energy.
Yeah, I have a couple thoughts, Claire. If you can hold on for just a minute, you hear that music. We're going to let our affiliates have a couple minutes of time here to do whatever they need to do. So, Claire, hang on just for a moment there in Dearborn. And Jeannie, we have you in Nebraska and a lot of social media comments for Take Two with Jerry and Debbie. Stay with us.
Third Millennium Media presents Debbie Georgianni.
The world tells us not to be merciful, and we as Catholic Christians are called to take a step back and look at it in a different way. We must practice mercy, especially if we want to receive mercy.
Debbie Georgianni, co-host of Take Two with Jerry and Debbie on EWTN Radio, wants to visit your parish retreat or conference. Invite Debbie Georgianni today online at thirdmillenniummedia.com.
There are some saints and martyrs who were beheaded with a greater peace than I have when someone cuts me off on the freeway or my teenager's running late for school. If I find someone's driving me crazy, the problem isn't that person, it's me. Whenever someone disturbs your inner peace, your inner life is too disturbable. Jesus showed us in the way to Calvary that no one can take your hope, your joy, your peace, or even your love for them. No one can make you act or feel anything. When Jesus reigns in our hearts and minds, we don't hand over that kind of power to any human being. So if you're letting someone drive you crazy today, maybe God's telling you to build up the interior castle of your heart so that nothing disturbs you. But that comes from prayer. As St. Paul wrote from prison, do not be anxious about anything, but in prayer and petition with thanksgiving, present your requests to God. Then the peace that surpasses understanding will guard your hearts and minds in Christ Jesus. This is Chris Stefanik from RealLifeCatholic.com on EWTN Radio.
It's May 21st, the optional memorial of St. Christopher Magellanes and his companions. In the 1920s, St. Christopher ran a seminary in Mexico. He and 21 other priests were arrested and killed by the anti-Catholic government. Also, St. Eugene de Mazenot died on this day in 1861. He was an effective preacher and gave many parish missions. To help him, he established the Oblates of Mary Immaculate, the OMI Order of Priests, and as a bishop, he developed support for retired priests.
Hi, this is Cy Kellett. Later today on Catholic Answers Live, Trent Horn generates lots of conversation when he asks, why are you not religious? Catholic Answers Live, 6 p.m. Eastern here on EWTN Radio. Now back to Take Two with Jerry and Debbie.
Always glad that you're with us. Happy Monday. Jerry Escher with Debbie Georgianni, and you drive the show talking about how do we deal with and not let stuffed emotions really rule our lives. If you've got a secret on that, 833-288-3986. And Claire, we're visiting with Claire in Dearborn, Michigan. Debbie, I thought what you said all was just really fantastic, and I'm glad you pointed out that, Claire, we were not in any way advocating that children, be kind of taught things like punching pillows or screaming at the top of their lungs or anything. I mean, I don't know that, I don't know whether that's, healthy even for adults. It could be. Some people recommend it. But the point is, obviously, with kids, you'd be maybe instilling them or encouraging them to be sort of, violent, or that's the way to take things out in life. And obviously, with an adult, hopefully you have that already, that mature sense of knowing, okay, this is just an exercise. It's just a drill. I'm just going to release a little bit of pressure and then move on with life. So, but what came to my mind, Claire, was when you mentioned your oldest daughter will sit on the couch, say in May or June or July, and be sad because it's not Christmas. And maybe an exercise you can do there is take the opportunity in the moment, sit down, maybe the whole family, and talk about what Christmas means. And as you do that, the kids will see how beautiful it is and how glorious and majestic and amazing it is. And it was a one-time event that occurred in history. And the church's celebration of it once a year is to commemorate that just how amazing that is, how special Christmas is. So, I mean, if it was Christmas every day, well, I guess that would be great in one way. But since we have that anticipation, we have the season of Advent where we prepare, and then we have the whole Christmas season where we celebrate the birth of Christ and joy to the world and all of that. Maybe then that can build up, take away that sadness, and maybe that can be replaced with this sort of this wonderment, this awe within her, and then that feeling of anticipation, that as May goes by and June and July, maybe she can be marking on her calendar, now it's only 4 months till Christmas, 3 months, and get excited about it instead of being a little bit melancholy or sad that it isn't actually Christmas at that time. I don't know if that helps in any way or not, but that was just an idea that came to my mind. Claire, what do you think?
Yeah, I think that's good because redirecting, I know that would help, redirecting, because kids forget how they feel so quickly and then they move on and they're happy again. So
right.
I think that's a great idea. And also thank you for telling me about, I think I'm going to try that when next time my child expresses to me something that she's feeling that's negative, I'll hug her and kiss her and tell her that I'm glad she let me know, So thank you.
Yeah, well, and it may be reverse psychology, but here's the reason why I did that is I never wanted my kids to stuff emotions. I grew up where, similar to Jerry, where when my dad said enough talking, it was enough talking. We weren't allowed to express anymore. And so we did bottle up a lot of emotions. And I never wanted my children to do that. And so they felt comfortable enough expressing themselves. But I just want to say one other thing. I agree with everything that Jerry said. One other thing, Claire, I used to be a religious education director for 660 students. And believe me, every single week we'd get 10 or 20 kids that would come into religious education very angry. They were angry at their parents. They didn't want to be in religious education. They didn't want to be there. The very first thing I would do is I would not let them stay in the classroom because they would spread that anger and that negativity to the other kids. So what I did oftentimes is I would make them do different tasks. Like I had one child and I remember him vividly and I just absolutely loved him. I would make him come to the office and I would make him stuff envelopes for 20 minutes. And after 20 minutes, he was like, I think I feel great. I'm going back to the classroom. I said, great. And thank you for stuffing those envelopes. And I think sometimes kids just need what you just said, Claire, and what we were sharing, that redirection so they can get through that anger. Journaling is great, writing things down, doing things like that. All those exercises can help. And I think they can help us as adults too. So Claire, you sound like a great mom. You have 2 beautiful girls and another one on the way. God bless you for caring so much about wanting your kids to be happy and healthy and holy. And I think that's beautiful. So way to go. Kudos to you, Claire. Keep us posted.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. All right. Wow. Insightful conversation, Debbie, and I think constructive as well. 833-288-3986, talking about stuffed emotions. And I have to say this, Debbie.
Go ahead.
When you put that on the calendar, and I realized this topic was coming.
You were thinking of stuffed peppers?
Well, actually, I got inspired and I made stuffed mushrooms last night. Yeah, so in addition to stuffed emotions, I enjoyed some stuffed mushrooms last night. So anyway. That's for whatever it's worth. Okay, Jeannie in Nebraska, listening on Ave Maria Radio. Jeannie, thank you for calling Take Two with Jerry and Debbie, talking about stuffed emotions today. Hi, Jeannie.
Hello.
Hi.
Oh, my goodness.
You got me with stuffed mushrooms.
I know. I probably just totally derailed the whole conversation.
Anyway. I wanted to comment, very, very similar to your first caller today. I don't journal much. I do some, but I'm sort of an avoidant personality. So whatever kind of issues come up, it's my go-to to stuff them down. So I went through a little bit of counseling to try to work on that. And the person gave me what they call the 4 movements of prayer. And the first step was just really acknowledging what you're feeling. Am I angry right now? Am I sad? What is it exactly that I'm feeling? And then to be really honest about that. And then to take that to the Blessed Sacrament. And, as your first caller would journal it, I would sit there and pray and just purge all of that stuff that I had figured out what was bothering me. And cry if you really need to. If it's really that bad, just cry it out to God, and then sit and rest and just sit in his embrace and let him fill you with love. And it's been a really, really life-changing thing for me to do.
Wow, that's beautiful. What I love about what you just said is about crying, because I think when we show that emotion, it's really coming to the surface, and that's okay. Mm-hmm. I mean, this is really a beautiful thing. Sometimes it's so healing to be able to cry. Mm-hmm. I mean, look at what tears themselves do. They can cleanse our eyes. They can make us feel better. It's a release of all that emotion, and I think that's very, very healthy. The other thing too is when we were talking about this, Jeannie, I don't know if you heard Claire's. Did you hear Claire's take on this with her children?
I did, yes.
Okay, yeah. And see, there's a big difference, though, because when, and I'm not saying not to validate children's tears, because, of course, children's tears are very important. But sometimes kids can turn on the tears very quickly, whereas us as adults, we have a lot more life experience. And so when we are willing to shed those tears, there's usually a reason, a very deep reason, that we need to get those out. And so I think it's very healthy. I just wanted to affirm you on that, because I am a absolute firm believer on expressing emotions in a healthy, controlled sense, that allows us to heal, because that's what God calls us to not carry that baggage. And if we carry that baggage with us, it'll go into the next relationship and the next one and the next one. So I just wanted to affirm you on that strategy, and I think it's awesome. What do you think, Jer?
Thanks.
No, nothing I can add to that, Debbie. You are, as always, spot on. And Jeannie, you blessed me too with what you had to say. So I don't know if you have any follow-up thoughts or comments, Jeannie.
I did actually. With what Debbie said, she with letting out those emotions by crying, I find that it allows more things to come out, things that you stuffed down months and months ago, and it just is a constant release of getting all of that bad stuff out. And then it allows a lot of room for the Holy Spirit to come and fill us with that love. So, and that's all.
Awesome.
Amen.
Thank you so much, Jeannie. Have a beautiful day. We appreciate you joining us on Take Two with Jerry and Debbie. Yeah, Debbie, it does remind me actually of, I think the year, I've talked about my year of depression before in 2011, and a lot of it was, as I worked and processed through what was going on, a lot of it was just the grieving that I had never let myself go through over not having my dad in my life, really. And I've said it many, many times. I did not have any idea that the human body, the human eyes could cry so many tears that as I cried that year.
Right.
But that was part of the process, but I had never dealt with that before, speaking of stuffing things down. It's like, I cannot acknowledge this because it's fearful, it's sad, it's whatever. But we have to get these things out. And you've even mentioned the physical, toll that this can take. And I don't know if you have any statistics. I was looking at a couple of online articles that have really alarming increases in the possibility of very serious illnesses if we keep our emotions stuffed down.
Well, it's very interesting. I actually had a doctor one time tell me, I had thyroid cancer in 1994. And I actually had a doctor once say to me, he said, did you used to feel like you couldn't speak? And I said, what did you mean by that? And he goes, well, that's your weakest part of your body. And I said, what? That's so interesting, because we were raised in a family where we did stuff a lot of emotions. Isn't that interesting? And so if that's true, it possibly, who knows, could have translated into the thyroid disorder that I had. And isn't it funny now that God puts me on radio? I think that's hilarious. By the way, Jerry, I have to tell you, when you brought up the stuffed emotions thing, I laughed so hard I pulled my earphones out of the back of our Comrex unit that we used to transmit. It was hilarious. That is hilarious. You crack me up. Anyway, okay, moving on to Dee in Rochester, New York, on the Station of the Cross. Hi, Dee. Welcome to Take Two. Hi.
Actually, I'm kind of going along with what Debbie, you said about having a child stuff envelopes, and it seems like having them do something especially something that they have to show for. They might be reluctant at first, and whether it's in school or religious ed or at home. And then there was an old thing. Maybe our grandparents would say, "You go scrub a floor if you're angry, and you've got something to show for it, and the energy's burned out of it."
Yep. Well, Dee, I agree with that. That's how my dad raised us. You know, we would get like angry, and he'd say, "Okay, time to go out and mow the grass." And we had an acre. We had an acre and a half, and it was like, no, no, I'm not angry anymore. I'm good.
Well, there are even more cheerful ways of still doing that, but getting them busy and they really the kids like getting busy, and maybe we're not using them as much. You know, respecting their ability to do a job.
That's true. That's very true. Yeah, and they do have great. Our children have such. I mean, they're so smart, and they are. Yeah.
Yes.
I agree with you.
And perhaps we could use their minds, but use their labor or whatever project they could do, and respect it.
Right.
I love it.
Yeah, I think in many ways parenting has changed, evolved. It's different, whatever. I don't know if a lot of families do this, Dee, but you reminded me of when I was a boy. One of my stepdads. My mom remarried a couple times. After divorcing my father, but one of them had all kinds of creative and, to us, very frustrating ways of helping us get out our emotions and our feelings, even our energy. I remember one night I shared a bedroom with one of my brothers, and our stepdad came by the bedroom door. It was like 10:30. We're still talking. He says, "Oh, I guess you guys have a lot of energy. Let's go shovel some dirt," And so we went out, and we had to shovel dirt for about an hour, So. I mean, and I think these are great teaching tools because you remember them, and then the next time you're going to go, I'm not going to make that same mistake again.
It could also be throwing baseballs too, which is kind of a fun activity too.
Absolutely.
Great.
Well, thank you so much for all you do there.
Oh, thank you, Dee. Thank you. God bless you. Have a beautiful rest of your day.
Okay,
hey, Debbie.
You
thanks,
hey,
Dee.
Jerry.
We got where is that? What am I looking for here?
Did we get something?
Well, we've gotten some email, and our dear friend Jane, if you're still listening, thanks for listening, one of our regular listeners. And she wanted to kind of confirm a couple things that we've shared. She says, I think the most important part of the plan, that she's talking about, husband and a wife setting specific time aside to air any feelings or emotions. She says, I think the most important part of this plan is to set the timer for 5 minutes. The person who wins the toss has the floor. No one else speaks. Then the other person gets 5 minutes. Repeat if necessary for one rebuttal. And then what you said, Debbie, she says, and of course, they hug each other after the session and tell a clean joke, too.
Oh, I like that, Jane. I love that. That is great advice. Jerry, may I just say something really quickly, because I just got a text message that they were laughing that I said that I used to hug my kids when they'd express their emotions. Claire, if you're still listening, just let me clarify something. I used to allow my children to express their emotions, but I never used to really encourage them to get mean or anything like that. They were very kind. So let me just give you an example. I made eggplant parmesan probably 5 nights a week because I love eggplant parmesan. My youngest son couldn't stand eggplant parmesan. So eventually one day he shared with me, he goes, Mom, I need to tell you something. Your eggplant parmesan is horrible. I hate it. And I hugged him and I kissed him. I said, thank you, honey. I didn't know that. I said, what should we do? Should we not have eggplant parmesan anymore? He says, no, you and Dad and my brother can eat it, but I really don't want it. I said, great. So that's what I mean by it. We used to laugh a lot because the kids knew that it was pretty funny when they could finally express something that was so obvious to the rest of us. My son still, to this day, he's in his 20s and he cannot stand eggplant parmesan, which I don't know why. I love it.
Well, Debbie, come on, 5 nights a week. I mean, anybody would probably at that point say, enough is enough.
I love it.
Well, I want to mention, we're going to right back to the calls here because there are plenty of them. But if you want to stay up to date on things at EWTN all across their platforms, including you can get the topics for Take Two with Jerry and Debbie ahead of time, sign up for Wings. That's Wings, the weekly e-newsletter from EWTN. Just go to EWTN.com and sign up get your wings today, and it will come directly to your email inbox. So you'll be in the know about EWTN.
And you know what's coming up tomorrow and the next day, which is kind of fun? We're we're calling out to all the women to weigh in tomorrow. This is Women Describing Holy Men. That's tomorrow. And then Wednesday is Men Describing Holy Women. Talk about getting your emotions out and your feelings out. This is perfect. This could start a war, but that's okay. Juan in Lubbock, Texas, you've been waiting so patiently on Our Lady of Victory. Hi, Juan. Welcome to Take Two.
Hi. How y'all doing today?
Great.
Doing
How are
very
you?
well, Juan. Thanks.
Good. Hey, I just had a quick comment. My comment was that we need to remember as a Catholic family that, man, our priests, they're just not there, to give mass. They're there for confession. And when we go to confession, they're there. They go to school for counseling and so forth. And that if we never go to confession, we can't use them and for them to give us that advice. That way we can better ourselves. Know what I mean? And that's what they're there for. And I think as a Catholic family, we forget that sometimes.
Yeah, you may be right, Juan. You may have a very good point there. Priests are available for many, many things. They're obviously, we don't have as many priests as we would like right now, so they're kind of run thin. But if not in the confessionals, certainly we encourage people to go to confession, but if one does not have, if the priest cannot spare, the time because there are people waiting in line, what Debbie does, I'm sure, and Debbie used to give spiritual direction. Juan, I just set up a regular meeting with my spiritual director, a priest, about once a month, and I'm able to really just get out what's on my mind, what's on my heart, what's good, what's bad, and I just find it to be so healing and so cleansing. Debbie, I'm sure you've had the same experience.
Oh, yes, absolutely. Juan, I agree with you wholeheartedly that confession is very healing. It's a great opportunity for us to experience the sacrament of reconciliation. The thing about it is given, you might have a specific circumstance where your priest that you go to, your confessor, has that time and knows maybe more of your life circumstances. But here's the thing. A lot of times they don't have that time because they're getting a snippet of your life and then they have to make some kind of comments on it, which can be very difficult and can be hard for people to receive because they may not have given the whole story and have gotten a full answer. So I agree with you. The sacrament's there and that it gives us those graces. But I think you would agree, Juan, the sacrament itself is so necessary because just by entering into the sacrament, you now open yourself up to a much healing place. So I wouldn't you agree that just by entering into that confessional, that puts you in a better emotional place? Would you agree with that?
Yes, I truly do. I mean, it's a great experience. I try to do it once a month, and if I feel better right off the bat, even if it is just for those little petty things, know what I mean? It feels great to go out there and to get rid of all that heaviness or the stress, and then for them to be able to give us advice the way they do sometimes, it's great. It really is.
Absolutely. You're blessed. Once a month, that is awesome.
Yeah. Everybody else, if you don't go to confession regularly, take Juan's example as your example and really try and do that because, like Juan said, even for, I can't remember the word he used, the smaller things or whatever, every sin is an offense against God. Some are mortal, some are not mortal, some can be forgiven in other ways, such as receiving the Eucharist and so forth. But why would we not? Why would we not want to take advantage of such a great sacrament? It is like Jesus himself sitting in that confessional, and we're just simply going to him, and out of love, he just washes away everything we've done, and we get that peace of mind. So thank you, Juan, for that great reminder. We appreciate that so much. I'm going to quickly read a couple of social media comments that came in. Facebook Live, EWTN Radio. Colleen said, Debbie, a wonderful nun once told me, here you go, a wonderful nun once told me to take a walk when I was too stressed, and instead of blowing up. That helped. Through the process of life and learning the faith, I learned to take it to Jesus, often through a holy hour in the chapel. That's wonderful. Yeah. And on YouTube, Michael says, it's hard for me not to express my emotions. I wear them on my sleeve. The worst for me, I got mad at a computer game once, and it made me so mad I kicked a piece of furniture and bruised my toe pretty hard. Michael, oh my goodness. Hope that you're hope that
nothing's worth nothing's worth that though. So you don't want to hurt yourself. And see, there's other ways you can express it, and so you don't want to get hurt in the physically hurt in the process.
And there's actually we have a listener, Renee, in I don't know if I'm going to say the region right, Doha, Qatar. I've heard Qatar pronounced differently, Qatar, but anyway, Renee from Qatar. Emotions can kill us if we are not that keen to listen and letting go. Otherwise, this program will educate to pursue our acceptance. I'm blessed to be listening to your program and inspired via YouTube. Thank you,
Thank
Renee
you.
in Qatar.
We'll
We
wave to
appreciate
you.
that.
You get the wave. Yeah.
Okay.
Awesome. Could go back to Mary? Can
Sure.
we go to Mary? Okay, Mary in Missouri, listening or watching on YouTube. You get another wave. Hi, Mary. Welcome to Take Two.
Yes, hello. I was going to say two things. One, me personally, when I'm having a really stressful week or whatever, rosaries. Oh, my goodness. It's amazing how my day goes if I do the rosary first thing in the morning versus not. And to quote our beautiful St. Padre Pio, he says the rosary is a weapon for this time. And I believe that to be so true. And anyway, and then my other thing, I had a dear friend who went through a very emotional experience. Her daughter she wasn't in an accident, but my friend thought she was and thought she had passed away. And so it was a terrible, terrible experience for my friend. And it really affected her in her daily life after that. So she had to go get some help for it. And the counselor or psychiatrist had told her to take everything from that night that it happened, reminders of that, and to take it into her closet. She gave her a set amount of time. And she said, you can sit down and kind of walk back through the experience. You can cry. You can do whatever you need to do for this amount of time. And then the next day, it was a shorter amount of time. The next day, the next day, the next day. So after an amount of time, when she would go into her closet with the stuff, it was like she was not cried out, but
she was less attached.
Yes,
Mm-hmm.
yes, exactly. And that really helped her. So I just wanted to share that in case that could help somebody.
Yeah, definitely. Well, Mary, I just want to let you know, thank you so much for bringing up the rosary first thing in the morning because, and mentioning Padre Pio, he is one of our go-to saints. That is exactly my method that I use to release all of the stuffed emotions or any emotions that are just not reconciled. So thank you for bringing that up. That's very, very powerful, and we appreciate the call. Jerry, are we going to cut this close? Can we get to Gail for like 30 seconds? Because she's got something interesting.
Well, we got the closing music in 15 seconds.
Oh, okay. Okay, Gail, we're so sorry. Gail,
email us, Gail, please. Yeah.
Please see, I was trying to be like you, Jerry, and I just can't do it.
I know. We just hate to not get to anybody, Gail, but yeah, Rich is going to play that music here in just about 2 seconds, and that gives us 60 to get out. So
email is take2, the number 2 at EWTN.com. But just there's some comments coming in about what happens if you express emotions to friends and stuff. Could that be borderline gossiping and stuff? I would recommend praying the rosary. It's not necessarily a great thing to just spread that kind of negative feelings from one person to the next. It's just, and plus it can lead us into sin. So I recommend the rosary. That's my take on it, Jerry. Just like Mary said.
Carol emailed, love your show, but I didn't have stuffed emotions until listening. Well, I didn't realize I had them. So Carol has taken something away, and she's going to be a better version of herself because of it. So again, tomorrow we want women to call in. What is a holy man? Describe a holy man tomorrow. And then on Wednesday, gentlemen, call in and describe a holy woman. Debbie, until tomorrow, we want everyone to have a beautiful and blessed day.